just didn't know any better. They didn't know about safety equipment. They didn't know how to organize car shows or drag races. They didn't know how to get insurance to protect themselves, their cars, or their spectators. To combat this, the National Hot Rod Association came up with an innovative concept, the Safety Safari.
The Safety Safari traveled all over the country and organized hot rod clubs to have their own drag races. They would find an airfield, they would teach them about selling tickets, about classifying cars, would run the races, and all with safety in mind. Dedicated to safety was the logo that they came up with, the catchphrase, and it was all about safety to try and improve the image of hot rodders, but it evolved into drag racing, and it also did improve the image of hot rodders.
Well, it helped a good deal because you had places where people could actually race their cars, and that made people build cars and got people involved. And it also got sponsors involved because you had like Winston and Coke and Pepsi and all these companies backing the races, and that helped a lot of people get money enough to build a car because everyone didn't have enough money to build a really good car, and they had to have help.
When drag racing was first started, you could join NHRA and you could go to all their meets and run your cars, and all the car clubs were joining NHRA, and it made a place for the kids to get off the street and go racing. I consider Wally as probably the godfather, grandfather, or whatever you want to call him as for drag racing. He started this thing, you know. I mean, he got the people off the street, the guys off the street, and he kept having meets all around the country, not just California.
In 1952, there were 6 drag strips in Southern California and none in the rest of the country. By 1955, there were 68 drag strips in 31 states. More than 434 events were held that year, drawing more than 500,000 fans to the country's hottest new spectator sport. In a few short years, what was once the illegal, dangerous occupation of restless teens on deserted streets had been transformed into a self-sustaining business enterprise that afforded young racers the opportunity to actually make a living racing professionally, provided, of course, that they were willing to log the miles between drag strips on the circuit.
Being on the road is a very tough deal. The guys may end up doing 3 different cities in 3 nights. They would race on Friday night, race again on Saturday, and again on Sunday, and maybe drive 500 or 600 miles in between to make those races. And sometimes they'd have a midweek race as well. That much money to be able to stay in hotels. They had very small crews. A lot of times when they went to these cities, they would just pick up help. People that heard of them and said, "Can I wipe the tires for you? Can I, help you change oil?" And that's how they got from city to city and worked on cars.
While the racing circuit was grueling for the racers, it proved to be a golden era for a new generation of speed equipment manufacturers. Cam grinder Ed Iskandarian, chassis fabricators Dode Martin, Jim Nelson, and Kent Fuller, and engine builders Keith Black and Ed Pink were able to turn their passions and hobbies into full-time professions. Advances in car design and technology and committed racers working the circuit all across the country gave drag racing a package that could be mass-marketed anywhere. And as the sport's popularity continued to soar in the United States, many of racing's pioneers were looking to expand their audience even further.
Over in England, people were involved in cars. So in the early 60s, the NHRA did a tour over to England and put on exhibition races. The NHRA picked some of their best ambassadors to take their cars over there and do these exhibition runs. Tony Nancy, Don Garlits, Tommy Ivo.
They took 2 cars from 5 different classes over to show the Limeys what drag racing was all about. So Garlits and myself got tapped for the fuel cars. Tony Nancy and a guy named Dulce Palmas ran their gas dragsters. And I mean, it was kind of the cream of the crop. And we were racing at old RAF Air Force bases over there. And so they were super wide and super long. And when we pushed the car to start it, and I rolled it around into the staging area, and there were people everywhere. It was really awesome.
Having built a large fan base all across America, and now with a firm foothold in Europe, drag racing was poised to build a huge worldwide following. This pivotal period would set the stage for further growth in the sport, as well as the incredible technological advances still to come. In less than 20 years, drag racing had evolved from the illegal activity of bad boys on deserted roads into a legitimate sport with a worldwide following. Throughout these early years of experimentation and technical innovation, the founding fathers of drag racing fought for acceptance and legitimacy. What inspired them was pure love for the sport and for the people who shared their passion.
I think it was a camaraderie. Everybody got along good. And if you needed parts from somebody else, they'd loan it to you. If you had the parts, you could loan it to them. Even though you were competitors, you were still pretty close friends. It was a pretty close-knit group.
The early days of drag racing embodied what's best in American spirit, the sort of can-do spirit, the technology, working with the technology man over machine. It's very much the American culture of taking a machine and working with it and persevering to make it better than it ever was.
You have a dream. Maybe it sounds kind of hokey and Mickey Mouse. You have a dream that you're going to build something. We had a dream when we were building the dragsters, and we were going to be successful at it. I don't think we ever said we were going to get rich or anything.
I didn't race to get rich. I raced for the pure fun of it. And I think to be able to say I did it, I had fun doing it, and I did it during the time period when it was more fun than it ever was before or ever has been since. It's been a tremendous thing.